What is good, YugiTube? It's your boy Meh of Pig and Meh here. So as you can see before you, I got a deck profile for you of a deck that I got top 4 with today at locals. Post Dimension Force, the Dinomorphia archetype got some new support in an absolutely busted fusion spell or trap, and the super awesome Floodgate fusion monster. But before I get to showing you guys the deck profile, let's kind of explain Dinomorphia in a nutshell. So, for those uninitiated, Dinomorphia are a series of dark dinosaur monsters that all have effects that revolve around getting your life points as low as humanly possible in order to basically utilize these absolutely busted fusion monsters that all do various things. Currently, there are only 2 main deck monsters, Dinomorphia Thursia and Dinomorphia Diplo. Both of these monsters have shared effects that, when they are destroyed and sent to the graveyard, whether it's by battle or card effect, they can banish a trap card, any trap card, it's not exclusive to their own archetype, in order to special summon the other one from the graveyard. And then they both have effects, additional effects that trigger in accordance to their summon effect if your life points are 2,000 or less. Thursia here, on normal summon, will set any Dinomorphia trap from your deck to the field. And if your life points are 2,000 or less, she will gain an additional 500 attack, basically making her a 2,000 beat stick. Diplo here can send any Dinomorphia card from your deck to the graveyard. And if you happen to have 2,000 or less life points when you summon him and use that effect, he will burn the opponent for 500. It's really good. These are the cornerstone of your whole deck, and we'll get to explaining ratios in a bit. Every Dinomorphia normal trap basically has the effect that if your life points are 2,000 or less, if your opponent would deal effect damage to you, you can banish them from the graveyard to prevent yourself from taking that burn damage. So to anybody that laughs at you for getting your life points super low, thinking they'll just do Kazi troll burn, well, you trolled them. Every single Dinomorphia counter trap card, on the other hand, protects you from battle damage. So again, if they think they're just going to Hayate you, well, nope. Alright. Dinomorphias currently only have 3 fusion monsters. Stealthburga, Kentagura, and out of Dimension Force, Wrexham. Each one of these cards does something different, and all upon destruction can special summon a Dinomorphia from your graveyard. In the case of Stealthburga and Kentagura, it's a level 4 or lower, and in the case of Wrexham, it's a level 6 or lower. Stealthburga here has the effect that he makes it where you do not have to pay to activate your trap cards. So the inherent cost of every single one of them paying half your life points to do anything gets mitigated by having him on board. You don't often do that effect, but he can come up every once in a blue moon. And he also has a quick effect that when the opponent's monster activates its effect, you can burn them for damage equal to that monster's attack. That's came up before, but for the most part, I didn't really use them all weekend as anything other than fusion fodder for the last card in the stack. Kentagura here is one of your most important, because what she does is, as a quick effect, she can banish your Dinomorphia traps to then copy their effect. That is insane, because she'll often help with the setup, or in some cases, she'll help basically get multiple uses out of your trap cards. And also, she loses attack equal to your life points, so she tends to be really, really big. Usually bigger than Wrexham here, so she kind of helps just clean up and get a lot of damage on board. It's a fantastic card, very important. And then Wrexham here is the newest card in the archetype, and he's probably the reason why you should play the deck. Simply put, any monster your opponent controls whose attack is equal to or higher than your current life point total cannot activate their effect. This is absolutely stupid. And then he happens to have a quick effect that you can pay half your life points to turn all the monsters on your opponent's field attack into whatever your current life total is. So yeah, he can help you get in a lot of extra damage and absolutely troll the ever-loving hell out of the opponent. This card's insane and basically makes it where you don't have to play things like Skill Drain in this deck anymore. Really, really good. So, now that you know what Dinomorphias are, let's kind of get through the deck profile real quick like. Okay, so as stated, of course you're playing your 3 copies of Thurzia. She's the most important. 3 copies of Diplo. Because it's all dinosaurs, I run the 1 copy of Miscellaneous Sarosaurus, basically to act as a searchable hand trap in order to help prevent them from being Veilered, Impermed, and all that. And then 2 copies of Fossil Dig, because it can search all of these cards in question and get you to Thurzia faster. You can easily bump this up to 3 by dropping the engine that I'm about to show after this, but 2 worked perfectly fine. And if you have pot of really expensive pot that exiles your extra deck and then you get to excavate, the name is eluding me at this very second, play that instead, because that card's insane. But because I don't have that, I decided to have some fun, and I actually opted to play a hero engine of 1 Shadow Mist, 1 Mask Change 2, 1 Mask Change 1, and 3 copies of the newly unlimited Hero Lives. The activation requirement for this card is to pay half your life points, and in this deck, you don't care. Also, this can help bait out an errand Ash Blossom if you're afraid of it, and Dark Law can either be the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or just kind of mid. Yeah. I do not regret playing this, but this can easily be dropped if you don't opt to run this package yourself. But I did, and it was super fun. Alright. And the very last spell card I opted to run in this deck was the singular copy of Called by the Grave. Ash Blossom's a problem, so it's pretty obvious why you would want to run that. Alright. For the Dinomorphia specific traps, for normal traps I run 2 Brute, 2 Alert, 3 copies of the brand new Frenzy, and 2 copies of Domain. Frenzy here is probably the most important card in the whole deck, because it can fusion summon your fusion guys using 1 from the extra deck and 1 from the main deck. This card is absolutely nuts, and the only way they balanced it was that you can only activate it during your opponent's main phase, which is really awkward because you need to let them pass priority over to you or activate it in response to something. So literally, if they ever main deck a Denko Sekka, you have every right to slap them across the face. Domain here is basically this, but it's not locked to the opponent's main phase, and it only does from the main deck, hand, or field. So it could still make the same monsters, it's just not as good as this card. But you still want to play it for sure. You could easily max this out, but 2 worked perfectly fine for me. Alert here is simply special 2 from your graveyard whose levels equal up to 8. Then you're locked into Dinomorphias for the rest of the turn. It does not negate their effects, so you could still prop your main deck guys by special summoning from the graveyard, and it can also kind of special summon back a properly summoned fusion monster that they outed. It's really good. And Brute here is a card I might suggest in future iterations to max out on. It's basically pop your Dinomorphia, pop their card. This card's really, really good because it can help out Mystic Mine, and it's very important now, especially if you knew who won the YCS. So yeah, these are all your normal traps. For your Dinomorphia counter traps, you just run 3 Sonic and 1 Reversion. This can copy any counter trap in your graveyard, but this card sucks. I almost never used it. About the best thing it could do is act as a dump off of Diplo. Sonic here, on the other hand, is incredibly important and probably the best counter trap because it is your spell trap negate. The only issue is you have to have a Dinomorphia because afterwards it has to pop on resolution, which is really, really awkward. Alright, so your non-Dinomorphia traps. 2 copies of Trap Trick. All of your best cards in this deck are normal traps, so you could easily max out on this. I did not, and I probably will in the future. Some normal traps you can do. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. These used to be super poly, but I opted for this, and it's okay. And 2 copies of this super nutty card, Ferret Flames. This card is super good in this deck, because basically if your opponent's monsters' sum attack total is higher than your life points, this forces them to shuffle their monsters back until they have monsters equal to your life points. So basically it always acts as a free field wipe. That doesn't destroy, doesn't target. This card's nuts. Everyone, if you're playing this deck, you need to play this card. I'm going to play 3 in future iterations. It's really fun. Alright. So for counter traps, just run 2 copies of Solemn Strike. The reason I'm only playing 2 is because the hero lives make it really hard to constantly be able to pay for this. But what's never hard to pay for is 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. This card says no to everything, so of course you play 3 of it. Alright. So let's go to the extra deck. I already explained, but you're playing 3 copies of Wrexham, 3 copies of Kentagura, and 2 copies of Stealth Burga. If you ever drop the hero package, you can play 3 of this. It's pretty good. Speaking of hero package, 1 singular Darklaw. Like I stated before, this is either the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or mid. And for the most part, I would say it's worth maybe maining just the 1 random Mass Change 2 just to be able to summon this, but that's kind of up to you. For Exceeds, because everything you run is a dinosaur, obviously you need to play the 2 Evolsaurs. Most of the time I just made Logia, and that's about it. I didn't really use any other extra deck card, so just make note. But to help fill out the rest, I just kind of played some generic good stuff. Everybody's Dark, so this card's real good. Pop, back row. Basically help Link climb into Best Boy Access Code Talker. Pretty simple stuff. Nothing to really explain there. Now, my side deck was incredibly mediocre. I played 3 Droll, basically just to have 1 hand trap that can stop whole turns. The 3rd copy of Trap Trick, and then every other card you're about to see can be Trap Tricked. That's why I opted to play them. 2 Eradicator Epidemic Virus. The 2 fusions you mainly make are dark monsters with over 2500 attack. So yeah, this card's pretty easy to keep live. 3 copies of Dimension Barrier, because you can just use this against Despia or Sword Soul. 3 copies of Evenly Matched, because it's probably the best field wipe. And then the only card that disappointed me all week, and the thing I might change, 3 copies of Heavy Storm Duster. You can Trap Trick it, which is real good. It pops 2, but sometimes I just kind of wish that this was a Twin Twister or something, because it would have accomplished the exact same goals as this, just been live in more instances. But I don't know. Nobody plays Royal Decree, so you really have nothing to worry about with this card, so do with that what you will. Alright, so that's the main extra inside. Let me give you some final thoughts. So there you have it, folks. My post-Dimension Force Dinomorphia deck profile. Some final thoughts for you. I think that this deck is a lot more fun and interesting than Eldlik. It's just not as consistently reliable. But even with that in mind, I think everybody, if you can get the cards, should give this deck a shot, because it's pretty fun. You don't necessarily need to play the hero engine like I played, but it's kind of funny to just plop a Dark Claw on somebody's field and watch them scratch their head and ooga booga their way out of it. So yeah, there you have it. My top 4 Dinomorphia deck profile. If you like what you see, make sure to comment down below. Tell me what you think, any changes you would make, and all that jazz. This is Meh, Pig and Meh, signing out.